The year was 2145, and humanity was on the brink of a monumental discovery. A group of brilliant scientists, working in a secret facility in the Nevada desert, had finally cracked the code of time travel. They had developed a device that could warp the fabric of time, creating a portal to any point in history. The device was called the Chronos, and it was the most advanced and dangerous invention ever made. The scientists were eager to test their creation, and they had selected a team of volunteers to be the first time travelers. They had prepared them with rigorous training and briefing, equipping them with special suits and devices that would allow them to communicate with the base and record their observations. They had also given them strict instructions. Do not interfere with the past, do not reveal your identity, and do not stay longer than necessary. The team was ready to embark on their adventure, and they gathered around the Chronos. The device looked like a giant metal ring with wires and cables attached to it. It was connected to a massive computer system that controlled the settings and parameters of the portal. The scientists entered the coordinates and dates of the destinations, and the Chronos began to hum and glow. The team leader, a woman named Alice, stepped forward and addressed the group. "This is it, everyone. We are about to make history, literally. Remember, this is a scientific mission, not a vacation. We are here to observe and learn, not to interfere or change. We have a great responsibility and we must not abuse it. Are you ready?" The team nodded and cheered, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Alice smiled and gave the signal to the scientists. They activated the Chronos, and the ring opened up, revealing a swirling vortex of light and colors. Alice took a deep breath and walked into the portal, followed by the rest of the team. They disappeared into the vortex, and the portal closed behind them. The scientists watched the screen, where they could see the vital signs and locations of the team. They also heard their voices through the speakers as they reported their arrival and status. The team had split into 3 groups, each traveling to a different era and timeline. The scientists hoped that everything would go smoothly and that they would return safely and successfully. They did not know that their experiment had already shattered the timeline, creating countless threads and possibilities. They did not know that their actions would have unforeseen consequences, both for the past and the future. They did not know that they had just unleashed a Pandora's box and that they would soon face the fury of time itself. The first group of time travelers arrived in the medieval era in the year 1100 AD. They found themselves in a forest near a castle. They could see the banners and flags of the lords and knights, and they could hear the sounds of horses and trumpets. They were amazed by the sight, and they felt like they had stepped into a fairy tale. They quickly adjusted their suits and devices, making sure that they blended in with the environment. They had chosen to wear clothes that resembled the ones worn by the commoners and peasants, hoping to avoid attention and suspicion. They also had small cameras and microphones hidden in their accessories, allowing them to record and transmit their observations. They decided to explore the area and followed a dirt road leading to the castle. They saw people walking and working, carrying baskets and barrels, and they greeted them with smiles and nods. They tried to act natural and casual. They reached the castle, and they saw a large crowd gathered at the gate. The lords were accompanied by their armies and advisors, and they looked quite stern and proud. The crowd was eager to see the outcome of the meeting, and they speculated and gossiped about the possible scenarios. The time travelers were also interested in the meeting, and they wanted to get a closer look. They pushed their way through the crowd, and they managed to get near the front. They saw the lords enter the castle, followed by their entourages. They also saw the guards and soldiers who stood at attention and watched the crowd. One of the time travelers, Arthur, was too eager and careless. He stepped forward, trying to get a better view, and he accidentally bumped into one of the guards. The guard, who was holding a spear, lost his balance and dropped his weapon. The spear fell to the ground, and it hit another guard, who was standing next to him. The guard, who was wearing a helmet, did not see the spear coming, and he felt a sharp pain in his leg. He screamed and fell to the ground, bleeding profusely. The crowd gasped and murmured, and the other guards turned to see what had happened. They saw Arthur, who looked guilty and scared, and they assumed that he was the culprit. This guard was a kingsman, and Henry I was supposed to be crowned that day. The coronation was delayed, and later that night, soon-to-be Monarch Henry was assassinated by a band of rebels. England in present times is now a French colony. The British accent we all knew of ceased to exist. The British heritage was wiped off the face of Earth. India was never conquered, so it was never partitioned, and Africa flourished as one of the most developed continents on the planet. As the consequences of the medieval encounter rippled through time, the second group of time travelers found themselves in the Victorian Era, 1865. The second group of time travelers arrived in the Victorian Era in the year 1865. They found themselves in a city near a theatre. They could see the buildings and streets, and they could smell the smoke and dust. They were impressed by the sight, and they felt like they had stepped into a novel. They quickly adjusted their suits and devices, making sure that they blended in with the environment. They had chosen to wear clothes that resembled the ones worn by the upper class and the elite, hoping to gain access and influence. They also had small cameras and microphones hidden in their accessories, allowing them to record and transmit their observations. They reached the theater, and they saw a long line of people waiting to enter. They joined the line, and they learned that a play was being performed and that the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, was attending. The president was accompanied by his wife and his security, and he looked calm and dignified. The people were excited to see the president. It was the day Lincoln was supposed to be assassinated. The time travelers were also interested in the play, and they wanted to see the president. They used their wit and managed to get near the front. They saw the president enter the theater, followed by his entourage. They also saw the actors and actresses who smiled and bowed. One rather zealous time traveler accidentally knocked down a suspicious-looking guy lurking in the hallways. Turns out it was John Wilkes Booth. This time traveler just prevented the assassination of the president. The South and North never fought. Peace was achieved within the states, and the slaves were given more freedom than ever, but rebellions soon took over, and now the USA is unrecognizable. The team of time travelers who prevented the 9/11 attacks were celebrated as heroes. They were interviewed by the media and became celebrities. They revealed their origin and their mission and claimed to have saved the world from a terrible fate. Little did they know their heroic act to prevent the 9/11 attacks would unleash a chain of events with devastating consequences. The altered geopolitical landscape led to a series of conflicts that engulfed the globe, creating a world far more chaotic than the one they sought to prevent. Nuclear weapons were used, biological warfare was unleashed, and millions of lives were lost. The time travelers realized too late that they had doomed humanity to a worse scenario than the one they had averted. The USA had become more and more paranoid because of future attacks, always on alert. It was 100 times worse. Guns were sold over the counter, and every family owned at least one minor nuclear weapon. Humans mutated because of the repeated usage of nuclear technology. The average life expectancy had dropped by 30 years, and people barely lived past 40. As the time travelers returned to their present, they were about to discover that their actions had not only altered history, but also created an inescapable paradox. Humanity was doomed. The only way to try to fix things was to go back in time and prevent their past selves from messing everything up. This conundrum could essentially erase them from existence, It could also cause more destruction and cause more timeline holes. It was risky, but they decided it would be best. They prepared, took a deep breath, and then went forward with their decision.